I am still your teacher Osbert Nwarinda. Now, in the previous video, I asked you that this energy that you produce during respiration, exactly what is it? What is this energy? Now, from what we basically know is that we have glucose. We have glucose. We have got in respiration. We have glucose being broken down, and we are saying this glucose, of course I want to use an equation which we know. Of course we are beginning from what we are used to, and then as we go into the one which is advanced, we have glucose, and this glucose here we are going to say it combines with oxygen. And we are saying when this occurs, we have got the products. We have got products here, and these products are, we have got energy. We have got energy. Here we have got energy, and this energy is we also have other products like carbon dioxide, and then we also have what we call water. So our question is, the question we are addressing here is, what is this energy? What is the energy? What is the energy that is produced? That is produced during what? During respiration. How is that energy? So I think this is the basic equation we know that is responsible for production of energy, that at least from the ordinary kind of understanding, that during respiration we have glucose being broken down, being oxidized, of course, with oxygen to produce energy. Now, what we actually talk about here is that, you see, this energy we produce, this energy is actually you would call this energy, I'm going to call it free. I'm going to call it free energy. Free energy. And by the way, this energy is in form of joules. This energy is in form of joules. This energy is in form of joules. Now somebody is saying, "Hey, teacher, you are lying." I'm saying this energy is in form of joules. And in fact, we are considering, because we are breaking down glucose, we actually measure it in joules per mole. We measure it in joules per mole. Per mole. Of course, this mole we are considering the moles of what? Of the glucose that is being broken down. So we are saying, whenever glucose is broken down in what we call shared respiration, we have got the free energy that is given. Energy that is given out, and that energy can be used to do different work. In fact, if you go into books, in some other books, they call this one, if you go into deep into energy science and so on, this energy is also referred to as Gibbs free energy. They call it Gibbs free energy. You can make some research about Gibbs free energy. Gibbs free energy, you can make some research about this Gibbs free energy here, and you see. So we have energy given out, and we are saying this energy is actually in joules, kilojoules per mole. Actually, we call them, it's in terms of kilojoules per mole. Now we are saying, ideally, when you go into into details, we are going to find out that whenever glucose is broken down, the overall amount of energy which is given out is always around, is over 2,870, something like that. Around 2,870 kilojoules per what? Per mole. This is the free energy that is always given out whenever glucose is broken down. Now, I know somebody is saying, teacher, for me, I know that energy that is given out is called ATP. I think that's what is running in your mind. That energy is always in ATP. But I want to tell you that no, that's not true. The energy which is given out is not ATP. The energy is this. Is these joules? How is this much? That for every 1 molecule of glucose, this is the free energy that is given out. Over 2,800 plus kilojoules. However, when this energy is produced, when this energy is produced, this energy is converted into other forms. For example, some of these kilojoules are lost. Some of these kilojoules, for example, are lost in form of what? In form of heat. For some reactions which give out heat, which are exothermic. For some reactions which are exothermic, we are saying some of these react. For example, respiration. Respiration produces heat. Respiration produces heat. So it means some of this energy, some of these kilojoules are given out in form of heat. But of course, and we are saying this one which is given out in form of heat is actually the smallest fraction. A smaller portion. A smaller portion of this energy is given out in form of this energy is turned into heat. And of course, this heat is important for those organisms which are, for example, which are endothermic, like me and you. We are endothermic. For us, what happens is this heat that is given out in one or the other enables us, for example, during when it is cold, it enables our body temperature to remain what? To remain constant. Whenever it is cold and our body is losing heat to the environment, it is this heat, it is this energy here that is from respiration, which is converted into heat, and this heat enables the body temperature to remain what? To remain constant, so it does not over decrease and affect metabolism, other metabolic processes in the body. So we are saying some of this heat is turned into, some of this energy is turned into heat energy. And then the one you want me to talk about, the one we call ATP. That is, I think that's what you wanted me to talk about right away from the start. The other remain, the bigger fraction. That was a small fraction. Now the large fraction of this free energy, is now turned into a form, into a chemical form. It is turned into a chemical form, and this chemical form is what we call ATP. And that's what most of you know, that energy in the body is ATP. But ideally, I'm telling you that energy is in form of joules per mole, depending on the moles which have been broken out. And we are saying on average, for every mole of glucose, this is the amount of free energy that is given out. But we are saying this energy, some of it is converted into heat, but some of it is stored in a chemical form. So some of this energy is used to join molecules together, to form bonds. Remember, I told you in the previous video that whenever bonds are being formed, bonds are formed with absorption of energy. So some of this energy is stored in bonds. It is stored in bonds, and those bonds are the bonds we find in this molecule here. So there are molecules which are brought together for it to form this ATP. There are molecules which come together, and when they come together, they form this big molecule which is known as ATP. So the energy that what was supposed to be there freely is stored, is kept within this chemical form which is called ATP, such that in case the time reaches and the energy now becomes less in the body, what happens is this molecule which had kept the energy in form of bonds, which had kept the energy in its bonds as it was being formed, will now be broken down. And once it is broken down, the energy which was in its bonds will now be released, and then it will now again be utilized for different chemical reactions. For example, some of these, for example, if you have a glucose molecule, we are going to find out that at the end of, if you have one molecule of glucose and it undergoes respiration, we are going to find out, yes, we are going to end up finding ourselves having over 30 molecules of ATP being formed. Over 30 molecules of ATP being formed, you get? Yeah, so we are saying the energy is like this, but we are saying this energy, after it has been formed, it is free there. Now it is used for different functions. This is the energy which is available to be used for different, but because it is produced in large quantities, we are saying some of it is turned into heat for the case of endothermic endotherms like me and you, and then birds and so on. However, the other energy is turned into something that most of you always hear about, and that's what you call ATP. So this ATP is formed. This ATP therefore is like a store. This is a storage. So ATP is a storage form. It's a storage form of energy in a cell. So when you go into a cell and you want energy, you will not find there what? You not find there these joules and what. What you find there is ATP, because it is in this ATP, it is in this form of ATP that a cell is able to store the excess energy it had produced, such that in case at a given time t, if that energy is required, now this thing can be broken down, and once it's broken down, the energy which was stored in it can then be released, and once it is released, then the energy within it can be used for different functions, which I already told you in a previous video about the importances of energy. Am I understood? By the way, this thing wants to resemble another question. For example, in photosynthesis, whenever you ask people, whenever you ask them and you say, you people, during photosynthesis, what's the main product of photosynthesis? What exactly is formed during photosynthesis? You know what most of you will tell me, even when I ask you who is watching me right now. If I ask you and I say, what's the main product of photosynthesis? What would you give me as your answer? When photosynthesis takes place, what's the product that is formed? What's the main product that is formed? Give me the answer. You are saying what? You are saying starch. Yeah. I'm sure you are saying starch. Yes. Yeah. So the reason I say you are saying starch, and I want to tell you that the starch is not correct. Starch is not correct. But that's what most people know. That when photosynthesis takes place, you form starch. But it's not true. In photosynthesis, for example, what is formed is not starch, but what is formed is glucose. Then glucose, now the glucose is like the way you see this free energy here, we are calling joules here. The ones we are calling joules here. So that glucose, for example, is then converted, because glucose is produced in large amounts. The cell cannot keep glucose as glucose. Just like the cell cannot just keep this free energy just there. No. So the cell will not be able to the cell will not be able to store glucose as glucose because of some reasons, osmotic reasons, and so on. So what happens? The glucose, because it is too much, is turned into a form which can easily be kept, and that form is what you call starch. Are you getting? So when you go into a plant cell, what you are likely to find there is starch. But you finding there starch does not necessarily mean that the plant manufactures starch. The plant manufactures glucose, then glucose is turned into starch. That is another misconception that most people usually have. So that's the same science here. We are saying the energy which is produced is not ATP. The energy is this free energy in form of joules, and I've told you that on average, for every 1 mole of glucose, this is the energy we produce here. But we are saying that energy is always in large amounts. Some of that energy, the biggest part of that energy, is now turned into a chemical form which can easily be kept in a cell, so that when a cell now needs energy at a given time t, now that chemical form can then be broken down further to give the energy, and that energy can then be used for different functions. So when you go into a cell, you find there ATP, whether it is a plant cell or an animal cell, you find there ATP, but ATP is the way how the cell is storing the energy invisible in the bonds of ATP, in the bonds of the ATP molecule. Am I understood? Am I understood? I hope I'm understood. If you have not understood, if you have not understood, you can always replay the video and you get to. But that is it. Are we together? Okay. Yeah. So this is the energy. Now we want to appreciate this ATP. We want to appreciate this ATP. We want to know this ATP you're talking about. But first of all, what is ATP? First of all, how is its structure and all other details pertaining it. So after you have understood this, let us meet in the next episode as we explore more about this ATP and every other detail that concerns all that pertains it. Thank you very much. May God bless you.